I don't know if, yeah, it is working. Welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about the STA Legionella Competent Person course. I'm Chris Bateman, so I'm one of the STA pool plant consultants. Robbie Phillips is here as well, he's doing a talk next. So Robbie and I have been in a lot of conversations recently about this course. And the STA, you guys are first to hear it. The STA are releasing this new Legionella Competent Person course on Friday the 13th of February. So you get a little bit of a pre-warning that is coming out, but we'll just talk about Legionella and what it all is. So as most of you probably already know, STA is the charity, the Swimming Teachers Association, and part of their charity objective is the preservation of human life by teaching of swimming, life-saving and survival techniques. Now, none of those things would happen unless we had swimming pools that the water quality was at the right standard to actually swim in. So we need to look at pool plant, and with swimming pools we have a big issue called Legionella. So Legionella is a bacteria, I suppose you could say, that is in water. There's many different types of Legionella. I think there's over 50 different types at the moment. And Legionella loves water between 20 and 45 degrees. Now, Legionella is a massive risk. I think Robbie Phillips has gone on about it for about 20 years, haven't you, Robbie? It's a massive, massive risk in the leisure industry. And Legionella has posed that big risk to businesses, and people have died from Legionella over the last few years. So to go a little bit into Legionella, it was basically a disease that was named after an outbreak in Philadelphia in 1976, where at the American Legionnaires Convention, lots of people became ill. Legionella can cause lots of different signs and symptoms like headaches, high fever, weight loss, and coughs, abdominal pain, and eventually leading into pneumonia. And about 12% of cases will be fatal. So it's quite a high proportion of Legionella cases could kill you. Within the UK, there's been a few things over the years, but just to go through some of the major ones. In 1985 in Staffordshire Hospital, over 100 patients became unwell, 28 of which died. Yeah. In 2002, 180 people became unwell. 180 became unwell, and only 7 luckily died that time. I say luckily, it's not really luckily, is it? But only 7 passed away on that one. And in 2012, there was an outbreak in Edinburgh, 92 cases, and 4 people lost their lives. Very tragic, very, very, I suppose, preventable. If they carried out things that they should have, we could have prevented those deaths. So Legionella is a massive, massive risk. Now, Legionella survives in water. We can drink it, it wouldn't harm us. It needs to be breathed in through an aerosol as such. So those water droplets from a contaminated source being aerosoled into the air, and then a bather, a customer, a pool plant operator breathing in that water vapor, and then actually getting that infection into their lungs. In the UK, there is lots of legislation, there's lots of legal requirements, and I won't bore you with them all, but I suppose the most important one is L8. Have you all heard of L8 before, the Approved Code of Practice? So L8 is quite an important one in the UK industry, where it goes through all the regulations of what businesses need to have and do in the not just the leisure industry, but in every industry in the UK. There's also the HSG 282, the control of Legionella in spa pool systems. So there's lots of guidance documents out there from the HSE, which you can download free of charge off the HSE's website. Now, like I said, Legionella it loves water between 20 and 45 degrees Celsius. The optimum temperature is 37 degrees, the same as our body temperature. But Legionella, it loves that 20 to 45, so we need to make sure cold water is below 20 degrees, so the Legionella bacteria will survive. It'll be dormant, but it will survive in that under 20 degree water, in our cold water systems. But in our hot water systems, we need to make sure that hot water is above 50 degrees as a minimum, ideally above 60 degrees. So when we're looking at 50 degrees, 90% of it is killed in 2 hours. At 60 degrees, 90% of it is killed in 2 minutes. And at 70 degrees, all of it is killed instantly. So there's lots of other guidance to go with what temperature your boiler should be running at, but To give you a bit of an idea, we really want Legionella killed within 2 minutes, don't we? Now, spa pools are a big risk. I know many people in the industry that have brought on about spa pools being the ideal breeding ground for Legionella bacteria, but they are a massive breeding ground for that Legionella bacteria. That aerosol that's created from the aeration of the water and the bubbles being created from the massage boosters and the air jets is creating that water vapor that people can breathe in. I had a gentleman on a course about 2 years ago where him and his partner and 3 other couples went to one of these hot tub lodge holidays, and all 8 of them contracted Legionella. Obviously HSE were investigating that, and luckily none of them passed away from that, but it's quite common in the industry. Interactive water features, another massive concern. There's one that's been recently opened by me. I don't know what pool testing they do. I don't know what pool parameters they keep it at. And it's in a park where bathers can just go in there any time of the year, and it is another breeding ground for Legionella bacteria. So chlorine and things like that are going to help the killing of the bacteria, but we need to look at the water temperatures as well. So under the L8 regulations, you need to have someone that's a Legionella competent person. So myself and Robbie and the STA have come together, and we've created something called a Legionella competent person course. So a Legionella competent person is that individual that's appointed to manage the Legionella bacteria on site. So you have that sufficient authority, competence, and knowledge of water systems and the relevant health and safety laws. Now, for you guys here now, do you know anyone at your building that has that? I see a few people shaking heads. But that role is vitally important for ensuring compliance with the regulations. So it can have severe health and safety consequences. So we need to have that competent person in place. So a competent person could be defined as someone that has the necessary skills, experience, and knowledge, and experience to work or manage Legionella. So they can be an employee or a consultant. It doesn't have to be an employee in your workplace. You can put it out to a consultant as such. The duty holder is the person in that business that has that responsibility to appoint a competent person. So they're the duty holder is the one that's ultimately responsible for that building, and they might put a consultant in as a competent person to come and do a Legionella risk assessment and put Legionella checklists, so you do all your Legionella checks and things on a regular basis as such. They would also give you some remedial measures as well, so things like if you've got dead legs in the building, I'm guessing you all know what a dead leg is, yeah? If you've got dead legs in the building, then how you would remedy that and sort out the Legionella risk in that dead leg. So they can be, like I said, an employee or a consultant. Consultants cost a lot of money, and a lot of businesses are struggling at the moment. So you tend to find that a lot of people are going down employing the normal employee to be their competent person. So the competent persons course has been made by the STA to kind of fill that gap in the leisure industry market. Now, the responsibilities of a duty holder is obviously that premises manager, the private landlord, whatever they are. They have a legal duty under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 and also the Approved Code of Practice L8. Sorry. So we need to make sure all the water systems are properly managed, and that includes any risk assessments, maintaining, preventing and controlling any risks in the building, understanding what water systems and equipment you have in the building, looking at the water spray, so your shower heads and things, and making sure that they're properly controlled, making sure that you're controlling the bacterial growth is prevented by treating water systems. So you might have had in your workplace maybe someone come in and clean a water storage tank or something. And making sure that the water stagnation is prevented, so making sure that the water system is continually moving. Does anyone know if they don't do this in the workplace that they work at the moment? Or do you think you've got someone that might be there? You might have, yeah? Hope so. So the Legionella Competent Person course gives that learner that knowledge on what is Legionella, who is at risk, how Legionella is transmitted, the role of a competent person, and the legislation they need to adhere to. Legionella prevention, Legionella checks like cleaning your shower heads and flushing little used outlets and your water temperature test, risk management, and when and how to report Legionella risk. I think the last one is quite an important one. So the Legionella competent person course, on completion of that, you'll be able to carry out Legionella risk assessments, implement control measures, undertake all the checks that you need in your buildings and your swimming pools, and ensure proper monitoring and record keeping to manage those Legionella risks. So the Legionella competent person course is approximately a 4-hour online course. It's an online program, it's very interactive with lots of different things available on there. It's open to anyone who undertakes that role. You must pass the multiple choice question assessment at the end. There's only a few questions, there's not a lot of them. It's valid for a 3-year period where you need to complete a refresher to renew. The HSE state that you need to renew your Legionella training every 3 years. They say 2 to 3 years, but we've gone for 3 years. And the cost of it is only £30 per person. So it's not going to break your bank when you look at consultant charges and things like that. But that's it for me. I'm just going to open it up for any questions if anyone's got anything to ask. Yeah, go on, Nigel. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So, Chris, I've got 16 pools across a sort of a 50 square mile radius or more than that. How many would you train in my business? Would I train? Would Andy train, and we train a few others, or do you need more than one if you've got that many pools?
So that's down to your risk assessment is the official answer, but I would probably say a couple of you would need to do it. If you can manage it between 3 or 4 of you, then why not just 3 or 4 of you? I would ideally say all 16 pools or whatever you said it was would do it to make the STA some money, but it's not about a money-making thing, this isn't. So it's more about giving you the knowledge and skills that you need to go out there and do it. So yeah, so I think if you 4 of you can do it and you can manage it between you, why not? Yeah, definitely. Is there any other questions? Go on, Robbie.
Just in answer to that, perhaps it would be worth thinking about designated people who are responsible for the Legionella. They do the risk assessments and they do spot checks then to make sure that everybody's adhering to it on different sites. If that makes sense. We, at the STA, we've gone bacteria mad. But what I'd like to say is it's so important, I'll give you one example. We visited a site, myself and another consultant. There were 70 upmarket units on that park, 70. And everyone had a hot tub in it. And they had Legionella detected in the microbiological test results. Just to give you an idea of the misconception of people in their responsibility for that site. We did a full consultation for that site. They had 3 other sites and they decided not to go to those. But they had exactly the same problems. And it goes back to basics, They were using dip strips for water testing. It was horrendous. So it's so important you look at it, because if you have got, as Chris quite rightly said, you've got anywhere where you can develop an aerosol. I started investigating, and I suppose in a warped sort of way, I was privileged to look at inflatables. Now, I'd never thought of inflatables. They've got to be spotlessly clean on the outside, on the inside. I've got one photograph on the next presentation where you can see the bubbles coming out of the actual seams. Now, that's an aerosol. So, if you've got anything like that, look at it very carefully. And I'm sure that they can have these presentations afterwards. And I'm doing a webinar on it as well, on biofilms as well. So be very careful, check your buildings. If there's been any alterations to pipework, you've got to look at it very carefully. I'll give you another example. Water features from pools, which were put in retrospectively. They don't pass through, and there's one very good one, Chris, not far from where we live. they put a water cannon in, which doesn't go through the filtration, and it doesn't go through the disinfection system. And one child had a pool in one pool, which was, which was separate from the main circulation system, and there was a massive outbreak of cryptosporidium. So I'm going off key a bit, but forgive me.
But no, just to add to what Robbie was saying there, there's a community farm by my house, literally like 100 yards away from my house. Lots of school kids visit, and they had this dragon kind of feature there, and they used to use just water spraying out the dragon's mouth, and it was a massive Legionella risk because the water was just stagnant in a little pond around it, and it was spray water out. So it's not just swimming pools and spa pools, there's all these water features that you see out and about as well. So Legionella is a massive, massive risk. But yeah, I hope you've got a lot from this one. I know it's only short. I think we only had 20 minutes allocated. But yeah, stay for Robbie's because he's going to go into it in a bit more detail in his about biofilms, I think, isn't it, Robbie? Yeah, yeah. So it's all linked with Legionella. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. And like I said, Friday the 13th, £30 per person. STA will be releasing this competent person's Legionella course. So yeah, thank you for your time. And yeah, any other questions before we finish? No? Cool. Thank you.